Welcome to my demonstration of how I do the running wheat border. I'm going to keep this video short and straight to the point. So I begin with my parallel lines, then I work out my individual segment widths, then I work on the shading, and finally I finish with the inner elements. For this demonstration I'm going to be using these two parallel lines. The width is 1 inch. To create my segments, now this will be a lot about preference. Most people tend to use 1.5 times the width of the border. So that's 1.5 times 1 inch, so that's 1.5 inches between each segments. I'm just going to mark each of those now. And now that I've marked where each of those placements are, I'm also going to mark a midpoint on each of these as well. Okay, so now I'm going to start doing my individual segments, and the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to start on one side of the border. I'm going to find the middle of these 2 points, which is here, and I'm going to draw a curve to that center point there. I'm now going to repeat this across all of the segments. Okay, let's do that on the other side. So now that we've drawn each of the individual segments, let's move on to shading. Now, when we're doing our engraving lines, depending on how you position your graver, when you increase the angle, what happens is the line that you're engraving actually becomes deeper and it creates an almost V-shaped line. So if you imagine I was engraving this and I was increasing my angle as I was going along, that would create a wider angle towards the end, like so. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the shading lines, and I'll be talking about how we can use this to manipulate the appearance of the shading lines. So as you're engraving a shading line, you want to start off close to the end here, and you want to go in a straight line towards that part of the segment. But what you want to do is, as you're reaching the end, you want to increase your angle, so you end up getting a wider line towards the end. You want to repeat that on the side. As the line is curved here, each of the shading lines become smaller and smaller. Okay, now that I've done 3 of the shading lines apart from the middle line on one side, I'm actually going to duplicate that and mirror it and use that as a reference to do the same on the opposite side. Okay, let's do the same for all the rest of the segments. And that's how I do the shading. Now, for the final part, the inner elements, we add these to create some visual interest for each of our segments. So the way I'm going to be doing this is I'm going to start off near the top, and I'm going to imagine I'm engraving from the inside to the outside, but as I'm going towards the outside, I want to make sure that my graver angle is held up really high like that, so I get a nice deep engraving line like so. So starting here and outwards. Now I'm also going to repeat that in the middle section here and towards the end here. I'm going to repeat that on the other side, and then I'm going to do the same for all the rest of the segments. And and that's the finished running wheat border.